Hello guys, it's Eleni, and in this video I'm gonna teach you how to safely fly through space. The only thing you'll need is Galaxy Tracker and possibly a chair and a table. As a Galaxy Tracker, you'll be working for Corporation Incorporated, which is a transgalactic construction firm that requires you to build your own spaceship. And you do that using what they have available, which is sewer pipes. There's nothing to worry about just yet if you follow my instructions. There's two main phases in the game. In the first phase, you build your spaceship the best way you can so that it endures all possible challenges. So players will be grabbing components from the warehouse in real time to attach them to their spaceship. Once you've built your ship, you'll start your flight and go on an adventure through space where you'll face many dangers and opportunities to earn cosmic credits. So in the first part of this video, I will be teaching you how to build your own spaceship. And then in the second part, we'll see step by step the flight and what you should expect to come across in your adventures. And then there's a third part with some extra rules to get you prepared for a full game of Galaxy Tracker. For this part of the game, you're only gonna need the following components. You give each player a spaceship board of level 1 and a pilot cabin of their chosen color to place in the center of their spaceship. And you also give them 2 rocket markers of their color. If playing with less than 4 players, you put the other pilot cabins back in the box. Then you take out all of the component tiles, you turn them face down and mix them up in the middle of the table to form the warehouse. For this tutorial and before your first proper game, we're gonna use the flight board marked with the letter L for learning or for let's see some action. Finally. When everyone is ready, then the boldest one says go, and then everyone starts grabbing components from the warehouse at the same time. You may only grab with one hand, only one tile at a time, and you can only turn a component face up when it's above your spaceship board. You are not allowed to turn tiles over in the warehouse. After you've taken a component, you can either attach it to your ship or you can return it to the warehouse. If you return it, you place it face up and it can be taken by any player, just like the face down tiles. Last, when you add a component to your spaceship, you can move it around however you like, but only until you grab a new component. When that happens, the previous one becomes welded into place and you can no longer move it. Each time you add a new component to your ship, it must be attached to one of your existing components. To join 2 components together, you must match the connectors. There's single connectors, double connectors, and universal connectors. A single connector can only be joined to another single connector or to a universal connector, and a double connector can only be joined to another double connector or a universal connector. So basically, you cannot join a single connector to a double connector. We also have the smooth sides of the tiles, which are the sides with no connectors. You may never have a tile with a connector adjacent to a smooth side. 2 smooth sides may touch as long as the piece being added makes a legal connection on another side. Now let's see all the different components you may use for your ship. Your starting component is your pilot's cabin. It has space for 2 crew members and it has 4 universal connectors, making it easy to attach other components to it. This is an additional cabin, and each of these allows you to add 2 more crew to your ship. Having more crew is better for certain adventures during a flight, so you need as many cabins as possible. Then of course your ship needs an engine, and ideally lots of them if you'd like your ship to be fast. Engines have 2 special limitations. First, the exhaust pipe must point to the rear of the spaceship, and secondly, no component can sit on a square behind the engine. This does not mean that the engine has to be at the back of the spaceship. This, for example, is okay as long as no component is placed on the space just behind the engine. And of course, space is full of dangers like space pirates and meteors coming your way, so you need as many cannons as possible. Cannons can point in any direction, but they are most effective when they point forward. And of course, no component can sit on a square just in front of a cannon's barrel. For extra strength and extra speed, there is also double cannons and double engines. These have the exact placement restrictions as the regular ones, but as they have twice the power, they're consuming a lot of energy. So in order to ever use a double cannon or a double engine, you need to use batteries. No need to check your pockets for AAA batteries, cause the batteries are included in the game. A battery component can hold either 2 or 3 batteries, and one battery can be used to power one double engine or one double cannon. You can place the battery components anywhere on the ship. They don't have to be next to the component they are powering. To build a really good ship, you need some double cannons and some double engines, so that means that you also need as many batteries as possible. Batteries are also used in the shield generators. Yes, your ship needs those as well when things go wrong, as they can deflect smaller meteors and hits from enemy cannons. One shield generator can protect the ship on 2 sides, and they do their job from any position on the ship. So if you place this shield generator here, you'll be covered from the front and the left side of your ship. If you want to be covered from all possible sides, then you also need to place a shield with the green part oriented towards the rear and right side, like this. You may fly with no shields at all if you're brave or suicidal, but you should expect to lose parts of your ship. Then we also have the cargo holds to store goods you find along the way and transport them safely. We have these cargo holds that can be placed anywhere on your ship, and they may have 1, 2, or 3 containers, with each container having space for only one good. Standard holds can store blue, green, or yellow cargo. Red cargo, however, is hazardous, and to store this, you'll need a special cargo hold which can store any type of good. Since cargo is sold for a profit at the end of the game, you need as many cargo holds as possible. And last, we have this type of component called structural modules. These may look like simple sewer pipes because they are, and they may not seem that important because they actually do nothing. But they might prove to be a necessity, as they have lots of connectors and many of them are universal, so they can be useful to go in between other components, and they can help get your ship together when it starts to fall apart. Oh, and there are 2 more components we haven't talked about yet. The rulebook recommends to ignore these special modules in your first flight, but you know what? Go ahead and add them to your ship. It will be our secret. Just beware, to be useful, they need to be connected directly to a white cabin like this. Yes, it has to be a white cabin, not the colored one you start with. And these are life support systems so that your ship can have, apart from humans, some alien crew as well. Yes, of course, there's aliens in Galactic Tracker, and they bring in some special abilities. If you manage to place them correctly, I will show you later what they're good for. Once you are happy with your ship, you may choose to stop building, even if you haven't covered every empty square on your ship. To finish building, move your rocket marker to an available starting space on the flight board. The first player to finish will take space 1, the second space 2, and so on. Now that the building is done, before moving on to the flight, players need to check each other's ships. If your ship breaks one or more shipbuilding rules, you must remove components until it is no longer in violation. Let's check this finished ship, for example, to see if it's good to go on a flight. Oh boy, well, first of all, this part of the ship is not connected to the rest, so it has to go. This engine has a component right behind it, so we need to remove either that cabin or the engine. But removing the engine would cause all of these components to fall off, so let's remove the cabin. Similarly, here, this component cannot be in front of a cannon's barrel, so either it or the cannon has to go. These 2 connectors don't match. And last, this connector is adjacent to a smooth edge. One thing we haven't mentioned yet is the exposed connectors, which are these connectors on the outside of your ship. These are allowed, however, they increase the risk of damage to your ship, as we'll see later on when we go into the flight. The components you removed should be placed in your discard pile, and they will count against you at the end of the game as lost components. And we will fly a torso of a spaceship. Good luck with that. However, if this happens to someone who is new to the game, you don't need to be harsh. Let them return the wrongly placed components and allow them to fix the ship and just move their rocket backwards on the flight track. So now you know everything you need so you can go ahead and build your first ship out of sewer pipes. You may do that now and then come back later so we can go on our first flight. I'll wait right here, I'm not going anywhere. Hello again. So these were the rules for building your ship. Now that you know how it works, I guess you have built your first ships and fixed any mistakes, right? So now let's get you prepared for your first flight. First of all, for each of your cabins, you place 2 of the human astronaut figures. Well, that's what the rulebook says. Do you remember our little secret? If you manage to add alien life support systems correctly, now you can also have aliens aboard. A white cabin, so not the starting one, when attached to a life support module, can have 1 alien of the corresponding color instead of the 2 astronauts. The brown ones improve the engine strength of your ship, and the purple ones, its cannon strength. Bear in mind though that your ship cannot have more than 1 alien of each color. So you see here in our game example, the yellow ship has 1 brown alien and the red player 1 brown and 1 purple. Then for each battery component, each player places either 2 or 3 green tokens depending on how many cells are depicted. You will also need cosmic credits and cargo cubes, so we will put them here for now. You must earn them. You earn them in the adventures you will encounter, so we will also need a deck of adventure cards. For this first learning flight, we'll be using the 8 adventure cards of level 1 marked with the letter L. For the full game, by the way, make sure to watch the 3rd part of this video for the complete rules. Now we shuffle the adventure deck and put them on the table. We can put the components aside. We will not need them anymore. Now the leader of your little convoy should reveal the first card. Oh, and who's the leader? Let's take a look at the flight track. The player who is furthest ahead on the track will be called the leader. So in our case, it's yellow. Each of these triangular spots indicates the relative positions of the spaceships, so it just shows who is first and how big are the gaps between the ships. Each one of those triangles also represents 1 day of flight. So while it is the leader's right to flip the cards, I will do it for you and I will explain how they work. We're flipping our very first adventure card, and it's a planets card representing a star system with some inhabited planets where you can land and barter with the locals for valuable goods. In flight order, starting with the leader, each player decides whether they want to land or not, and if they do land, on which planet they decide to land on. Only 1 player can land on each planet, and to decide this, you probably need to know also the value of each good. The flight board reminds you of the values of the goods, with red being the most valuable and blue the least valuable. So the yellow player, as the leader, chooses to land on the 2nd planet and places their other marker from their spaceship board on that planet. They collect 1 red and 2 blue cargo and arrange them on their cargo holds, making sure to place the red good on the red cargo hold because it's hazardous. Red is next and they land on the 1st planet, so they get 2 red goods. They place 1 of the red goods on the red cargo hold, but they have to dump the other one as they don't have enough space to hold more hazardous goods. It's a bummer to have to drop 1 or more goods, but strategy-wise, this is usually a good move. If red didn't choose to land on that planet, then blue probably would, and they would have gained 2 very valuable goods. It's the blue player's turn, and they decide not to land on the remaining planet, so nothing happens. After all players have collected their goods, those who did land lose a number of flight days as shown on the card. We start with the player currently at the back. Blue did not land on any planet, so does not move. And so red is the first one to move. When losing or gaining flight days, you may have to skip over other ships, as you always have to only count the empty spaces. So red moves back 2 spaces, skipping over blue, and last, yellow moves back 2 spaces. The leader reveals the 2nd adventure card. It's an abandoned ship. There's probably some sort of protocol for reporting these things, but who cares? You can take advantage of the opportunity to fix it up and sell it to your crew. As only one player can use the abandoned ship, the leader is the one to decide first. They can give up that many crew figures to take the indicated number of cosmic credits, paying also the cost of flight days, of course. If the leader decides not to take the opportunity, then it falls to the next player in line, and so on. Once one player fixes up the ship, then the remaining players are out of luck. So let's take a look at the current game. The yellow player is in the lead and they have 4 astronauts and 1 brown alien, so that means 5 crew members in total. Yes, the aliens count as crew members and they might be interested in the abandoned ship, just like the humans. The yellow player doesn't want to lose 3 out of their 5 crew members, so they decide to pass on the opportunity. Blue is up next and they decide to fix up the abandoned ship and sell it to their crew, as they have 8 figures. So they discard 3 of them, and there is an extra cost in flight days as shown here, so they also move their spaceship 1 space backwards. Last, they take 4 cosmic credits from the bank. Okay, that was an easy one. Let's see what's next. It's an abandoned station. Whoever was in that station has left behind some good loot, but it will take a big crew to search for it. So to use this opportunity, you must have at least as many crew as shown on the card. Again, just like in the abandoned ship, this is an adventure for only 1 player, so the leader decides first. If the leader does not have enough crew, or if they do not want to lose those flight days, they can pass the opportunity along to the next player along the flight. When the player decides to search the abandoned station, they load the indicated goods on their ship, and as always, they have to pay the cost of the flight days. Note that unlike in the abandoned ship, in the abandoned station, you do not need to lose those crew members. You just need to have enough of them. So yellow is still the leader and, as we have already seen, has 5 crew members, so decides to go for the abandoned station. They pick up the cargo and place it on their cargo holds over here, but then decides to split the cargo like this. Anytime you load something on your ship, you can rearrange the goods, and when you need to dump a component, you can choose freely between new and old components. Last, they lose 1 flight day and the adventure is over. And we can move on to the next adventure card. Ooh, it's Smugglers. As you probably guessed, Smugglers and in general the purple cards are not exactly a walk in the park, as they show enemies that are a threat to everyone. They attack the player's ships in order, so first they attack the leader. If they win, they attack the next player in line until they have attacked everyone or until someone defeats them. The strength of the enemy, in this case the smugglers, is given by the number next to the cannon, and players need to count their own cannon strength and compare it with the smuggler's strength. If any player has greater strength than the smugglers, they will fend them off. The smugglers are then defeated and they will not bother any other players. The winning player may claim their reward by losing flight days as usual. If the player has a lower strength, loses and pays the penalty specified over here. In our game, yellow is in front, so let's see what they can do about the smugglers. As we already mentioned, the cannons are most effective when they're pointing forwards, as in this case their strength is 1. Whereas if they have them in any other orientation, their strength is half, so 0.5. A double cannon will double that power if you spend a battery to power it, so a forward-facing double cannon will have strength 2, and a double cannon not forward-facing will have the power of 1. So yellow's total strength is 2, or if they spend a battery to use their right-facing double cannon, they would have a total strength of 3. Since a cannon strength of 3 is less than the smuggler's strength of 4, yellow chooses not to spend the battery component and clearly loses to the smugglers. Yellow then has to suffer the penalty shown here. The smugglers take their 2 most valuable goods, or if they didn't have any, they would take batteries instead. Yellow has to say goodbye to their 2 most valuable goods, and it's this red and this yellow cargo. Ouch. That must have hurt. So now the smugglers move to the blue player that has cannon power 2, or if they choose to spend 1 battery to fire up their double cannon, they'd have 4, which is what they decide to do. And we have a tie between the smugglers and the blue player. In the case of a tie between the smugglers and the player, nothing happens, but the smugglers are not defeated. They will continue on to attack the next player. So the blue player doesn't have to pay the penalty, but the smugglers are still undefeated. They move on to the red player, which has strength 2 from these cannons, plus a 0.5 from this left-facing cannon, giving a total of 2.5. But they also have a purple alien, which can help with the cannons. Purple aliens are a warlike species. If you have a purple alien, you get a bonus of +2 to your cannon strength, provided that your cannon strength is more than 0 to begin with, as of course aliens cannot fight a space battle with their bare tentacles. So the red player has 4.5 total cannon strength without even needing to use their double cannon, which means that the smugglers are finally defeated and red takes the goodies, places them on their cargo holds, and moves back 1 space. Now that we have survived the smugglers' attack, let's move on to the next adventure. You are now in open space, which gives each player a chance to gain flight days and move ahead. In turn order, each player declares their engine strength, beginning with the leader and continuing in the order shown by the rockets on the flight board. You must decide whether you want to spend battery tokens on any double engines when it's your turn to declare engine strength, just like we've seen already. However, the open space adventure may also lead to you having to drop off the race, like we'll see later on, in case you fly in open space with an engine strength of 0. So yellow is first and has 4 double engines and a brown alien. Brown aliens are good mechanics. They give you a +2 bonus to your engine strength. Of course, if your engine strength is 0, then the aliens cannot do anything. You cannot expect them to get out of the spaceship and push. So yellow needs to spend at least 1 of the batteries to power off 1 of their double engines to have the +2 bonus from the alien. Yellow has a lot of batteries and decides to spend 2 of them to have a strength of 4, so it's 6 in total together with the alien's bonus. Then the blue ship has an engine strength of 2 and could have a +2 from this double engine, but doesn't want to spend 1 battery for it, so moves only 2 spaces forward. Last, red has an engine strength of 3 +2 from the brown alien, so moves 5 spaces forward and is now ahead of blue. So the open space adventure is done. The next one up is a meteor swarm. During a meteor swarm, well, you'll be facing several meteors coming your way. The card shows several large and/or small meteors and the directions they come from. You deal with meteors one at a time, from top to bottom, and they affect all players simultaneously. For each meteor, the leader rolls 2 dice. The sum of the roll determines which row or column the meteor can impact, corresponding to the numbers shown on your shipboard. The first meteor is a large one and it's coming in from the front, so let's see exactly where it hits. It's column 9. Large meteors are so big that any shields that you have on your ship won't protect you. So the only thing you can do to deal with the large meteors is shoot them down with your cannons. As we see, the yellow ship doesn't have any cannons in column 9, so there is nothing they can do to protect their ship. The meteor crashes onto the ship and destroys this component. The component is placed over here in the discarded components, and the goods on it are lost as well. This battery component is no longer connected to the ship, so it falls off, and the yellow player discards it, and the batteries return to the supply. The red player is in a similar position as they can't blast off the meteor with their cannons. As a result, the alien support system is destroyed and put in the discard pile, so now the brown alien is removed as well, as they don't have a life support system anymore connected to the white cabin. Last, the blue ship has a double cannon on column 9, so uses 1 battery to power it, and so the meteor is shut down before it can do any damage. Oh, but it's not over yet. Next, we have a small meteor coming in from the left, so we roll the dice to see where it's going to hit, and it's row 8. Small meteors will harmlessly bounce off a well-built ship, so hitting a smooth side of your ship won't be an issue. It's only a problem if it hits an exposed connector. In this case, you can still avoid the hit if you can power off a shield that protects that side. As we can see, this is also summarized on the flight board. Column 8 for red and yellow is a smooth side, so the meteor just bounces off. For the blue ship, the meteor is about to hit an exposed connector. However, blue does have a shield that covers the left, so has nothing to worry about, spends one battery to activate it, and defends the hit. And finally, there is another small meteor coming from the right. The leader rolls a dice and it's a 9. The yellow player's ship has an exposed connector on row 9 from the right, but can spend one battery to activate this shield right here and defend the hit. The red ship also has an exposed connector there, but unfortunately the only shield on the ship only covers the front and left side, so there is nothing they can do to avoid the hit. The component falls off and they place it on the discard pile. Last, the blue ship is hit on a smooth side, so the hit bounces off. So in summary, for the small meteors, you are safe if they hit a smooth side. If they hit an exposed connector, then you can defend hits by powering up your shields. For large meteors, the only thing you can do is pray that they don't hit you, or you can shoot them off with your cannons. And on to the next adventure card. Let's hope this will be less dangerous. Ooh, we've just flown into the middle of a combat zone. But at least by now you know pretty much all the rules needed to deal with it. In the combat zone, each line is evaluated in order from top to bottom. Each part has a penalty for the player who is weakest in the area indicated. If multiple players are tied for who is the weakest, then only the player who is furthest ahead on the flight track will have to pay the penalty. So first up is crew, and the one with the fewest crew is going to lose 3 flight days. Red has the fewest crew, so moves back 3 spaces, taking again the back seat behind blue. Next, the player with the least engine strength loses 2 crew. In flight order from the leader backwards, each player declares their speed. Yellow has only double engines, so needs to spend their last battery token to power one of them. So yellow has 2 engine strength plus 2 from the brown alien bonus, so 4 in total. Blue uses their last battery as well to activate their double engine, so has 4 engine strength in total. Last, red has a total of 2 engine strength, so they're the one to suffer the penalty. They must discard 2 of their crew members. Red is forced to give away the alien, as if they give away the 2 human astronauts, they would be forced to drop off the race. Alien crew cannot run the ship by themselves. So red discards the alien and 1 human astronaut and is left only with this lonely human.
Hello?
And the last combat is regarding cannons. The player with the least cannon strength is attacked by cannon fire. Players need to declare their cannon strength. Red has 2.5 or 4.5 if they would spend 1 battery for the double cannon, but they decide not to as they already have more than the 2 other players. Blue has no batteries left and has a total cannon strength of 2. The same applies to the yellow player, who now ties with blue for the least cannon strength. Since yellow is furthest ahead on the time track, they have to suffer the penalty, which is cannon fire. The card shows whether the cannon fire is light or heavy and the direction that it comes from. In this case, the yellow ship is going to face light cannon fire from behind, followed by heavy cannon fire from also behind. Shields can be used to protect against light cannon fire, but in this case we won't need to do anything as the dice rolled a 10, so the cannon fire misses the ship. And now onto the heavy cannon fire, for which there is no protection against. We really hope that it misses the ship, but instead it's a 5, so yellow loses this component as well. Moving on, the last adventure card is Stardust. This is a special event and you follow the instructions of the card. In Stardust, everyone loses a number of flight days equal to the number of exposed connectors on their ship. Since players are losing flight days, it is done in reverse player order, so let's take a look. Any type of exposed connector counts as 1 exposed connector, so it doesn't matter if it's a single, double, or universal connector. Red has 4 exposed connectors, so the red ship moves back 4 spaces. The blue ship has 7 exposed connectors, so finishes behind the red ship. And last, the yellow ship has 8 exposed connectors, so moves back 8 spaces. So that's the end of the adventure, and it's time to see what's waiting for you at the end of your journey. Now that you've all safely arrived at your destination, or maybe not, it's time to count up your credits and see who is winning. The flight board shows what you should be counting. First, all these numbers show you how many credits you get based on the order in which you arrived at your destination. So in our game, yellow would get 4 credits, red 3, and blue 2. The second row gives a bonus to the player with the prettiest ship, so the one with the least number of exposed connectors. In our example, it's red with only 4, so gets 2 credits. Next is your cargo, and you get the credits shown here for each of the goods on your ship. So in our game, red will get 10 credits for these 4 goods. The yellow player managed to hold on to only these 2 goods, so gets 3 credits, and the blue player 0. And last, you have to deliver the components of your ship to Corporation Incorporated. Remember when we talked about some components lost along the way? Well, it's time to pay for them. You lose 1 cosmic credit for each component on your discard pile, so each player removes as many of their credits as the components in their discard pile. Players count up their credits, and if the sum is positive, they can count themselves as winners. Of course, the player with the most credits is a little bit more of a winner than the others. So these were the basic things you needed to know in order to play your first game of Galaxy Trucker. But there's a few more things you need to know in order to play a full game. First of all, during the building phase, apart from placing a component directly on your ship, you can place it over here and reserve it. No one can take these away from you, and you can add them to your ship anytime during the building. As you can see, you may never have more than 2 tiles in a reserve at once. Note, however, that your reserved components cannot return to the warehouse. If a component is reserved but not added to your ship, you leave it on your board and it will count against you at the end of the flight as a component lost along the way, as we've seen already. So far, you've seen that there's various misfortunes that await you out there in space. One of them, for example, could be that due to some bad management, together with a meteor swarm, for example, you may lose all your crew members. In that case, you are forced to give up. You're also forced to give up if you find your ship with no engine strength in open space, or if you're getting lapped, meaning if the leader is more than 1 full circle ahead of you on the board. However, in some cases, you may choose to give up voluntarily if you think that the remaining adventures will be bad for you, for example. It's a way to cut your losses. You're free to do that, but you must do so before the next adventure card is revealed. No matter where you leave the flight, Corporation Incorporated has always a handy warehouse nearby ready to receive the pipes you're carrying. If you give up, you remove your rocket from the flight board, you're just a spectator for the rest of the flight, and none of the cards can affect you. Also, you do not get any reward for the order in which you finished, because, well, you didn't finish, and you also do not compete for the best looking ship. You do get to sell your goods, but only at half price. And last, you have to pay for the components lost along the way, just like everybody else. If you give up, you can still win in the sense that any profit counts as a win, and you may still end up with more profit than the other players. At the end of the day, it's all about the cosmic credits. So far, we've used the learning board to play the game, but in the normal full game, you can leave the learning board behind and move on to the level 1 flight board. In Galaxy Trucker, there's 3 different levels you can choose from. It starts with level 1, that is the easiest level, which we recommend you play first. In other games, when you're more of an experienced trucker, you can move on to level 2 with its own ships and flight board, and then to the bigger ships of level 3 when you're ready for a bigger challenge. The main difference you'll see between the learning board and the flight 1 board is that it introduces the timer. In this space, you place the sand timer when you all start building your ships at the beginning of the game. When the timer runs out, nothing happens. Players are probably still busy building their ships, and they can continue to do so. However, from now on, if someone finishes their ship and places their rocket on the track, they can flip the timer to the last space. Once that has also run out, the player who flipped it says stop, and everyone who was still building must immediately stop and take a starting space, with the best space going to the player whose rocket reaches it first. Different level boards have different numbers of timer flips, and on those, once time has run out, any player can flip the timer to the next space in those in between slots. If no one wants to flip the timer, then players keep building until someone decides to flip the timer or until everyone is done building. Also, another difference in the full game is the way we make the adventure card deck. At the beginning of the game, before you start building, you need to make 4 adventure card piles. The composition of each pile is shown over here in each flight board. You draw cards face down to make each pile, and you place each deck on the indicated spaces of the flight board. The 3 piles at the bottom of the flight board are Corporation Incorporated's flight forecast, and you can peek at them during the building phase, so to know what's coming and to prepare your ship for it. During the building, once you have added at least one component to your ship, you can look at any of the 3 piles. When you return the pile, you can resume building or look through another one. You can look at these cards as often as you like until you finish building your ship. Note, however, that picking up a pile welds your most recent placed component into place, just like picking up a new tile does. When everyone is done building, the leader combines all 4 card piles together and shuffles them well. The top card must match the level of the flight, so make sure to shuffle until it does. So far, we've only seen the adventure cards of the learning flight. In the rest of the adventure card deck, you'll see cards of the same type, but also some new things that we haven't seen before, or some that require some specifications, like these stray big meteors. Meteors can come at your ship from the left, the right, or even the rear. As we've seen, meteors coming from in front of you can be blown up only by a forward-pointing cannon in the column from which they are approaching, just like we saw in our learning flight. However, large meteors from the side or the rear can be blown up by a cannon pointing towards the meteor in the same or adjacent row or column. A reminder is also printed on the flight board. On your flight, you may also encounter different and more advanced types of enemies on these purple cards, like pirates and slavers. Any player who was defeated by the pirates gets shot at their ship. You need to keep track of all the players who were defeated and then have the first defeated player roll 2 dice to determine the row or column of each shot. This roll applies to all defeated players. Hits from cannon fire work like hits from meteors, except that they're a bit harder to defend against. Light cannon fire can only be stopped by a shield oriented in the correct direction and powered by a battery. But unfortunately, there is nothing that can stop heavy cannon fire. You just have to wish that the roll is too high or too low that the hit misses the ship. When you defeat the pirates or the slavers, you don't gain goods but cosmic credits. You of course move your ship back the indicated number of empty spaces and take the credits from the bank. If you don't want to lose flight days, there's always the option of not taking the goods or the credits and leave your ship where it is. Either way, no other player may collect the reward once the enemy has been defeated. And we have 2 more special events. Epidemic makes you remove 1 crew member, human or alien, from every occupied cabin that is joined to another occupied cabin. The safe thing to do is to build your ship so that no 2 cabins are joined. If you do have joined cabins, maybe you can find an adventure card that will allow you to empty one of them before the epidemic strikes. And last, we've got the sabotage. Sabotage destroys a random component of the ship with the smallest crew. Again, in the case of a tie among the players, only the player who is farthest ahead on the time track will get sabotaged. To select the component to be destroyed, the affected player rolls 2 dice to determine the column and then 2 dice to determine the row. If there is no component at those coordinates, roll again for new coordinates. If there is no component there, roll again. If 3 sets of coordinates are rolled and no component is hit, then the saboteurs give up and nothing happens. If the saboteurs destroy a component, it goes to your discard pile, as do any others that fall off as a result. So think what could happen if you get hit in the center of your ship. It could be catastrophic. When you feel that you can handle any space adventure that might come your way, then maybe it's time to try the ultimate test of skill, speed, and courage. We're talking about the Transgalactic Trek. In the Transgalactic Trek, you fly 3 flights: Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. For each flight, you will build a new ship. The credits you earn on one flight carry over to the next, and you will accumulate more and more wealth as you fly across the galaxy. In addition to the usual ways of earning credits, you will also profit from your reputation. In the first flight, you can establish a name for yourself, and then you can try to build on that reputation in the next 2 flights. So in the Transgalactic Trek, there is a new element: the title tiles. For each flight, you prepare several titles, and at the end of the flight, you award them. For example, this title goes to a player whose ship has the most cabins with scenic views, so with a smooth side facing off the ship. If you win this title, you gain a small reward for your reputation. And from now on, you are known as a cruise captain. In the next flight, every player has only one title and tries to defend it by being best in the given criteria again. If you manage that, you gain a bigger reward and flip the title to the golden side for the flight 3. It gives you some handicap. For example, as a cruise captain, your crew is more and more consisting of tourists who escape at the first sign of a real danger. But if you defend it anyway, not only you get an even bigger bonus, it also gets doubled, and you will enter the Hall of Fame as a legendary cruise captain. At the end of the Transgalactic Trek, the player with the most credits is acknowledged as the ultimate tracker, and there are no tiebreakers. There is enough room in the galaxy for more than one ultimate tracker. So that was Galaxy Tracker in a nutshell. If you have any questions about the rules of the game or about sewer pipes in general, you can leave a comment under this video and the galaxy might get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and safe space travels.